There we go. Welcome to What the F is Going On in Latin America and the Caribbean, a popular resistance broadcast of hot news out of the region. In partnership with Black Alliance for Peace Haiti America's team, Code Pink, Common Frontiers, Council on Hemispheric Affairs, Friends of Latin America, Interreligious Task Force on Central America, Massachusetts Peace Action, and Task Force on the Americas. We broadcast Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube Live, including channels for The Convo Couch, Popular Resistance, and Code Pink. Post-broadcast recordings can be found at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Telegram, radindiemedia.com, and now under podcasts at popularresistance.org. Our episode today, Argentina celebrates 40 years of democracy and human rights, and I'm really happy to share with all of you that we are broadcasting live today from Buenos Aires with our guest and my good friend, Franco Metaza, who is the Director General for Foreign Affairs of the Argentina National Senate. And some of you may remember he's joined us in previous episodes as well, specifically last August when there was that attempt on the vice president's life. So I'm really happy to be here with all of you and Franco live in Buenos Aires. And we're going to talk to you in this episode about last week's International Human Rights Foro. That is what brought me here, and the significance of the Foro, and a few other events that passed last week. So let me give all of you just a brief background. Last week, Argentina celebrated 40 years of democracy and human rights by hosting the Third World Forum of Human Rights, March 20 through March 24. The forum was scheduled in tandem with Argentina's National Day of Remembrance for Truth and Justice. The forum closed with a march and rally on March 24, which marked 47 years since the US-back military coup that overthrew the democratically elected government. That overthrow of the coup was on March 24, 1976. The US installed the bloodiest dictatorship in the history of Argentina that remained in power until 1983, hence the 40 years of democracy since. So with that, I want you all to meet Franco. And why don't we start with what the significance of the forum last week, what it is, and how it was created, because there's a really significant history to that.
Okay, well, thanks for being here. I'm so happy that you could.
I'm so thankful for the invitation.
Well, the forum was so important for us. Every year, every March 24 is very important and very significant for all our country because of what you mentioned in the introduction about the dictatorship and what that meant for the country. But this year we could have this big forum. It was the third forum held. The first one was held in Brazil in 2013. The second one was held in Morocco in 2014, and then it wasn't held anymore until now that we could organize it here in Buenos Aires. This is the third international forum, and since human rights is a flag of our country in general and of our political party, the Peronism in particular, we were very happy, and we had like 500 guests from all over the world. We are one of those.
Yeah, I'm honored to say I was one of those. Yeah, it really was very special.
There were 4 days full of talks, debates, different events that made us think of what happened in our history, what are the situations nowadays with human rights, and what we should do towards future to keep human rights politics and to face the new challenges of this century.
You know, for the audience, we should just explain that the Foro met with, well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with the final march and rally on Friday, the 24th. And we'll talk about the significance of having the final day of the forum on the 24th. But I mean, it was 4 days filled with events all day, some very formal, some were walk in and join the conversation, but none of them were country specific. They were very much theme specific, themes that apply not just to Latin America and the Caribbean, but across the world, although many of the participants were Latin American, Caribbean. I was one of the few USians. I'm honored to say that I was. It was great to represent the North America with several others. But the themes ranged everything from lawfare was a great talk. Actually, Rafael Correa did a very good, the former president of Ecuador, on lawfare and how that is being used as a form of golpe de estado, a form of coup. And there were women's rights and gender issues discussed and original peoples. It was the military, how the military has taken over, or I guess in many cases, and the audience is really very much aware of this, is how the police have been militarized at a civilian level so as not to use the national military against people. It was really just profound subjects that apply to everyone if you're not careful. Which I found really very significant. And as you said, coming here from Argentina, where you lived years of a very bloody, very horrible dictatorship.
It was one of the worst in the region. You know that on those years, what happened was what we call Plan Condor, which nowadays we know it had a very important participation of the United States in the strategy and
the funding
and the formation of the militaries.
Yes.
In the torture methods and stuff. It was all over the region, Chile, Uruguay, but the one in Argentina was you used the word bloodiest. And that's true. We have 30,000 disappear people. When we say disappear, we mean dead and stuff, not only disappear. And we also have, and this happened in the ex-ESMA, for the audience to know, that was the main place where the forum took place.
So this site, so it's ex-ESMA, ESMA for the audience. This site, when Franco was talking about the military training and financing by the states, this site was the Escuela de Mecánico de la Armada, so the mechanical school of the Navy. And it was turned into, during the dictatorship, a prison, a torture center, a execution center.
A clandestine center of detention and execution. Yeah,
clandestine center of detention and execution.
We have a lot we had a lot of clandestine centers. This was one of the most important because it's huge, and there happened one of the worst crimes, that was the appropriation of babies. 500 babies were born from mothers who were young activists, Peronist activists, and they were pregnant at the moment of detention. And their babies were born, and they went to families of military families or colleagues or friends of military, because the militaries said that that was the way of cutting the
Oh.
communism
To have the children raised in a different
in a
political environment, different. Oh, wow. Oh my God.
That's terrible.
So the significance of that, so being the clandestine Senate, and that it was the principal site used for last week's forum.
Yes, that's
which
right.
was-
And the happy thing about this is that in 2004, Nestor Kirchner was the president at those times, and he took this center that was closed, almost abandoned,
Hmm.
and gave it to the human rights organisms to convert it in a memory space. And there works the human rights secretary
Mhm.
and the Madres de Plaza de Mayo, Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo, and hijos have places to.
Did I see an office for the forensic anthropologist too there?
Sorry again.
The forensic anthropologists.
Also-
They're based out there too.
They're based there too. So it's like we took it and we made
A monument to
space.
human rights.
Yeah.
And human rights work.
Yes.
Promotion of human rights work.
So
Yeah, it's really, it's a very large, campus, so to speak, or little buildings. And what I really, the history behind it was so appropriate for having the forum principally housed. So there were other sites as well, but that was the principal site. What I really appreciated about that site was that it hasn't been significantly renovated. So when you walk onto the property or walk into those buildings, you can sense something really evil happened there. It's not horrible today, but I think it's very appropriate that it wasn't just completely gutted and rebuilt and
No,
beautified. You know, the history is still really feeling.
you can imagine what happened there.
Yeah, you can.
When you walk,
Yeah.
you can imagine what happened there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. And I think that's important that
That's part
that
of it.
remains. Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had like, I don't know if I'm mistaken, but we had like 500 clandestine centers all around the country.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Wow.
That's
For a
lot.
population of what?
At those times, 30 million people.
Wow.
We have
That's
40,
so
40, 46 million now, and 30 million at those time, I guess.
Wow. So this is so significant that this forum was here last week, and because you have such a profound history to share with the world, and your countrymen, the forensic anthropologists that a lot of our viewers will know, a lot of help in Guatemala there, and also all the activists. And just for the audience, I think all of you know, because I've shared this with you, when I went to Colombia during the Paro Nacional, it was with a team of Argentinian activists from here, from Buenos Aires. And when I went to Peru in February of this year, same. I was the sole USian and 20 Argentinians. But that's how significant the human rights work is. So, yeah.
It's one of our flags. I always like to say that we are not an economic, how do you say potential in English?
Like an economic engine or huge economic potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
United States is an economic, it's
a-
a military potential. Okay.
Yeah.
We are not economic, we are not military, but we are a human rights potential.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah. And the exportation of that whole philosophy and is really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and we work daily and hard to keep it on a daily thing.
Yeah.
On a daily.
No, it's part of the culture. You can, you can feel it just engaging with Argentinians on the street. People are really friendly here. You know, I anticipated everyone to be nice because I've traveled with Argentinians and everybody's, people are really friendly. That human contact
Yeah, we got
is really profound here. Yeah,
Yes.
and easy. There's an ease about it. That's really wonderful to be around.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yourself included.
Thanks a lot.
all of you.
Now, the last thing I want to mention about all this week is that the last day, the 24th, we make a big march. The
30,000 people.
yeah, the Plaza de Mayo. Well, Plaza de Mayo is the center of the march. We make every 24, all the society, all the political parties, all the organizations.
And for the Plaza de Mayo, for the audience, significance of that is that's where the abuelos,
abuelas,
abuelas, the grandmothers, not grandfathers, would protest.
Yeah.
And so, it's significant that that's the location.
Yeah, a protest that was very, very pacific because since it was a dictatorship, they were not allowed to make big demonstrations.
Right.
So they used to walk around in circles around the pyramid of Mayo, that is like the monument, the principal monument of the Plaza de Mayo. And they used to walk in circles that was the way of protesting.
Almost religious in a way, very spiritual.
Very spiritual.
Very spiritual.
Very pacific.
Yes.
And they became an icon of pacific protest, and they were invited from all over the world in the years upcoming, so they could show in the international courts what was happening here. And the international pressure was key to begin to end with this dictatorship process. So they made a great effort.
A great impression.
Yeah.
On the international community. Yeah, the walking in the circle as a form of quiet, peaceful protest, that has been exported to many, many countries now, particularly in Latin America and the Caribbean. It is a form of protest that's been emulated across the hemisphere.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's really, we see it. Yeah, I've actually participated in a few of those in front of the Colombian embassy and the National Police Archive in Guatemala. And I've seen it done in Guatemala too. Yeah, so it's pretty profound.
Yes. Well, I was telling of the march, and I almost 1 million people gathered the Plaza de Mayo. That's the principal events organized by the organisms of human rights. When I say organisms of human rights, I mean Madres de Plaza de Mayo, Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo, y los hijos también, the sons of the disappeared one. We particularly from La Cámpora, which is the Kirchnerism youth aggregation, we walked from the ESMA.
We did.
To Plaza de Mayo. They are 40 kilometers. It's like 10 miles. Yeah. 9 miles.
9 miles.
Right.
Yeah, which was fabulous. It was 8 hours because we would start and stop, and it was a lot of celebrating along the way. But
it's our way to join the ESMA, the clandestine center of detention and torture, with Plaza de Mayo and the main event, and we walk with happiness and singing and thinking
and fireworks.
Yeah. It's our yearly demonstration of our way of organize us and how we understand politics, that is being in the street with who needs us.
Yes, and this is something that we could just take a minute to share with the audience, because this comes up in quite a few episodes, being with the people in the streets. And this march is principally young people.
Yes.
Well, younger than me, but youth. Yeah. And what being in the streets, the significance of that, of the social movement building, the political formation, building a political party, and then having a base to help develop candidates, keep that party in power from the ground up, and send a message to the opposition that the people are behind the elected candidate, all of that, those things. And that was on full display in that march on Friday the 24th. And this is a theme that continues, throughout our episodes. It's really the importance of social movement building and political education is huge. And there is no substitute for it. And it was Maximo Kirchner who did a great talk on the fallacy of presuming social media is political activism.
Yeah.
He talked about that.
Yeah.
And so, the social media it cannot in any way replace the ground activism and the people to people.
All this you are describing, it's like fun in some way, because what the dictatorship wanted to do is to cut the activism, the politics, and the
You completely
participation
eradicate
of youth.
it. Yeah.
It happened all the opposite.
Yeah.
we are one of the most involved people in politics.
Yeah.
It's not easy to find this kind of politics involucration of youth around the world. No, so it's
and that's
fun
really,
in some way.
It's really a testament to the whole political process here and the culture since the dictatorship, because after such a horrible historic period of time, there is this tendency in cultures for that memory to dilute generation to generation, right? And that is not the case here. People are more powerful now than ever.
Yes. Well, I mean, we also have our issues. One of the events that happened on those weeks was the Cristina Kirchner talk with ex-presidents, with Correa, Evo Morales from Bolivia, Ernesto Samper from Colombia, Rodriguez Zapatero from Spain, and I'm missing one. Pepe Mujica from Uruguay.
Yes, he was.
He also was here, backing up her. The conclusion we have is, okay, we are now in government. We have a democracy, but it's never a complete democracy. We also have a lack of rights and what's happening with Cristina, with all the lawfare that she has not the possibility of being candidate for next election. They want to ban her. They are banning her.
And the presidential elections are October of this year.
Yeah, we have in August the primary ones, and in October 22nd the general election. And what we are seeing is that the party, the opposition, and the juries, not the juries, the Poder Judicial. How do you say Poder Judicial?
The judiciary.
Judiciary are trying to
judicial powers.
Power are trying to ban her, and it's the same that they did in Brazil with Lula. He went to jail, so he cannot be a candidate. And if Lula was candidate, Bolsonaro has not happened.
Exactly.
So they try to change history. So that's
the will of the people.
The same in Ecuador with Correa. So that's what is happening here with Cristina, and that's our main aim today. And we frame that in our human rights fight. That is, we want a complete democracy, not an incomplete one, and that means a democracy without prescriptions.
Prescriptions of all forms. Including lawfare. And that lawfare talk was part of the Grupo de Puebla.
That
was profound. That was some really profound statements came out of that evening. It's really good. So,
Yes.
so what else should we talk about? What else you want to make sure the audience hears?
Well, we are very happy with what we did this year, but we need to keep it going, And I would like the audience to say that be aware, keep track of what's going on in Argentina. We are really worried of what could happen if a right-wing government arrives to power. If a right government arrives to power because they had more votes, everything is okay. We are really worried of this prescription of Cristina Kirchner. We are really worried about fraud, about cyber fraud,
All that
about foreign intervention. So that would be
those are all that we've seen since when was the in Bolivia, October of 2020,
2020,
all the way through to Brazil last fall.
Yeah.
Presidential and legislative elections across the hemisphere. So this is one of the last ones.
Yes.
Well, Mexico is going to be next year too. It change, hopefully no change.
Yes, we are really carrying that.
But this everything, the majority of the governments have changed to center left, whether they're progressive or revolutionary left. And so
we only need Ecuador and Uruguay now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we want to see Argentina keep that tide rolling.
We are working on that. We are trying to enhance our democracy. The Peronist ones are really democratic, and all the places where we get to, we make it through votes. Yeah. We make it through votes.
Through the electoral process. Yeah. Constitutional change.
Always.
Change, yeah. Which, yay, hooray. I love you. I'm so happy that you're my friend.
We are so happy. Thanks for being here. And
so thankful for your time.
It was a pleasure, Terry. It was a pleasure. And well, you can come every time you want.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that. So everyone, I just want to remind you, you've been watching What the F is Going On in Latin America and the Caribbean. We're a popular resistance broadcast. You can catch us every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Code Pink YouTube, the Convo Couch YouTube channel, and Popular Resistance Org YouTube. And post-podcast recordings can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you, Franco.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you.